Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I don't need that. I am Clara de la Torre. I'm recently working in DG Clima as Deputy Director General, but I've worked most of my career in research and innovation. And the meeting point of these two professions is fantastic, and this is why I'm here today. I have the pleasure of moderating this session with a fantastic panel. You know that I'm sure you have all read the communication of the Commission 1 year ago, Clean Planet for All, where we were sketching, more than sketching, a long-term strategy for decarbonizing our economy. And I'm sure you've seen that one of the technological pathways that was there was the electrification, and in particular, how shall we do about electrifying the transport sector, the power sector, the heating, and parts of the industry, of course. And needless to say that the batteries are at the center of this pathway and are at the center of our preoccupations. Not only for transport, but also since we have to go further in renewable energies, we know very well that we need batteries for stationary use as well. So there is no way around it. We need to do more in batteries. Batteries need to be affordable, need to be performant, need to be competitive. And from the competitiveness point of view, and we will hear that in a minute, I'm sure, batteries are an essential part of a car, of other transport means as well. We'll come back to them as well. And the question that often people say, but yes, that's very nice, but why don't we see more electric cars in the streets? I'm sure we'll get partly a reply to that, only partly, because if we knew, we would have already solved it out. Today's session follows very nicely the one we had yesterday, and I see many colleagues and friends that were there yesterday as well, in a session dealing with electrification, smart electrification of transport, I think it was entitled. What was said there were many important things, but one of them was the batteries and the infrastructure are at the heart of this electrification, and without that, we can just stop talking. So we have a pleasure of having a very fantastic panel, which is covering, if you allow me to use you, the different parts of the value chain. And we will start with Dr. Christina Edström, who is coming from the research community, and she's looking at the long-term research priorities, and she's currently precisely the coordinator of the large-scale European battery research initiative called Battery 2030+, and she is leading the Angstrom Advanced Battery Center, and she's professor in the organic chemistry in Uppsala University in Sweden. She's the part of the knowledge here in this value chain. Then we have the pleasure of welcoming as well Mr. Philippe Jacques, who is the Managing Director of Energy Materials Industrial Research Initiative Association, many of you knowing it as EMIRI. But he's coming from Solvay, and he's dealing what? He's dealing with the innovation-related challenges related to the advanced materials for clean energy and clean mobility, so that we have the materials there. Then we go on along the value chain, and we go to Mr. Patrick Demetz, who is representing the battery cell producer, Saft, and he's Corporate Government Affairs Director. And for 100 years, I think, Saft has been specializing in advanced technology battery solutions for industry, space, at sea, in the air, and land, in remote areas, in very difficult conditions. And we are very lucky to have him with us. And last but not least, in the value chain, we have to have those that use the batteries and put them somewhere in a vehicle, preferably, at this stage. And this is why we welcome Mr. Olivier Schauert from Volkswagen. And Olivier is head of the Center of Innovation for Batteries, Electrified Drivetrain, and Materials Research in the Innovation Center of the Volkswagen Group. So welcome to you all. Thank you very much for spending some time with us. Just let me remind you quickly where we are and why we are here. you know that this session is called Future Generation of Sustainable Batteries. And so what's the best battery for the future? The most performant battery, the sustainable, and the competitive battery. This is why we're here. And we are here in the context of the preparation of Horizon Europe partnership. So we want to know, how do we go about it? What do we want to put in that partnership? You know that thanks to many different initiatives, some legislation, some others which are not legislation, not the CO2 legislation that was adopted some months ago. Thanks to all this, the demand for electric cars is hugely increasing. But we know that many of the batteries are produced in China, and China is at the same time, of course, a very big market for batteries. So it's a sector which is growing exponentially, and it is foreseen that by 2030, 100 multi-gigawatt factories would be needed to meet this global demand. The good news is that we are experiencing an important investment, increase in investment in batteries in Europe, but some of this investment is not coming from European companies. We are progressing well, you know, in the context of the broader context of the Battery Alliance. Tomorrow there is a session, there's a summit of this Battery Alliance, chaired by our Vice President, Mr. Šefčovič. And let us remember one thing, that one important pillar of this alliance is precisely research and innovation. And this is why it's so important that you are all here. I think the important thing here is that, let us remember, we have to do more. There is no choice. We have to do more. We have to pool resources. We have to decide together what do we do, what do we need to do to have performant, affordable, and sustainable batteries. With that introduction of where we are seeing things in the Commission, how we position all this in the long-term strategy for addressing climate change and decarbonization of the economy, I would like to ask to our panel, with all these movements in the sector, what are, in your opinion, the most important trends in policy terms, in economic or technology terms, that are making this change in the ecosystem, that are making this ecosystem change so that we can deliver on the batteries we want? What's the direction of your organizations or your business? We can start with our knowledge source.
Thank you. I could almost say that I am now finally, eventually, living my dream, because I've been in battery research for a long time. And what has really been missing for the science in Europe is actually a strong battery production. And now we are starting to put that together. And we are putting instruments like European Battery Alliance, the Battery 2030 Plus that I'm coordinating, this large-scale initiative, but also more of the, application-driven research in the Horizon 2020 programs in a way that I haven't seen before. And we have almost like a unique window of opportunity, because we also try to coordinate this together with the regulations, the carbon dioxide emissions that we are controlling for the automotive sector, but also, I would say, thinking sustainability, thinking of the whole value chain and the needs from the different parts of the sector. And from a university point of view, we have to be part of this, and we have to deliver the new ideas that can make Europe disruptive. And we also have to deliver competencies and people and get the best brains into this to support electrification.
Thank you very much. Jacques, perhaps.
Yes, on my side, I would like to mention a very recent report from the World Economic Forum that was published last week, pointing out that batteries could possibly reduce by 30% the carbon emission in the transport and energy sectors. And this is really a huge contribution to really to reach the goals of the Paris Convention. And we believe that this is really a huge opportunity for Europe really to take part in this change. What will be needed is really tremendous efforts will be needed. More than 550 billions of cumulative investment over the 10 coming years will be needed to achieve these objectives. And this means that really we need to be ready to really develop not tomorrow, but now we need to start developing a sustainable, circular, and really low carbon value chain for the batteries.
Thank you very much.
So, Christina, I understand you've been in the business for 30 years and now your dreams are being fulfilled. Well, we heard from you, Clara, that I have been in the business for 100 years. And you can imagine that my dreams have been waiting for a long time.
I can say that.
Okay. I'd like to go, okay, so we have obviously this whole European Battery Initiative and all the different programs that are being developed and pushed and that are maturing are now energizing the whole ecosystem here in Europe, and a little bit beyond Europe too, I must say. I'd like to say a couple words about some of the directions that this ecosystem should be focusing on. And of course, that reflects a little bit on the products that all these ecosystem is being energized for, and that reflects on the cells and the batteries themselves. We hear a lot about performance, increased density, increased speed of charge. We hear a lot about reduced costs to serve properly our customers, potential customers. There is one thing that we don't hear so much about. It's safety. I'd like to say a couple of words about safety, and also a couple of words about how we treat the supply chain, and that goes along with safety. Surely we here, Europeans, want to have safe batteries in our cars. We don't want to have a bad surprise, and that's a fair request. But I think we also have to make sure that the safety of all the people on the supply chain is looked at with the same eyes as the safety of us end users when we drive our cars. So it means the safety of the workers in our facilities, of course, and also the safety of the workers all the way back into the supply chain, probably towards parts of the world that are outside of Europe. So I think this is something we should take a hard look at, and maybe some of the programs that are being developed should have a specific focus on this area. And I'm not so sure I see this as much as I think is necessary for the markets. And along with safety is also the environmental performance. We talk about recyclability, sustainability. We clearly have to demonstrate to our European citizens and customers, indirect customers, hopefully, that these batteries bring and these electric cars that go with batteries bring a big advantage over the current technology. And in order to do this, there has to be absolutely no doubt that when you look at the whole life of the vehicle with the battery, that you can demonstrate very significant gains, and that this gain increases over time. I'd like to see environmental footprint goals being looked at for the future, so that we can show that we bring gains, even if the electricity doesn't come necessarily from CO2-free sources, and that gain increases as we move forward in time and through the different generations. And that I would like this to be also addressed in the different programs that we are looking at. Thank you.
Thank you for that. We'll come back to discuss more precisely the scope of the partnership, and that perhaps an issue, I'm sure it's an issue we'll come to, and as well on the differentiating features of our batteries. What do those that buy and put the batteries in the car think?
Yeah.
What's the main trends?
I think that maybe automotive industry will be one of the main users of new batteries and new battery concepts. And if we first look at our business, at the automotive business, and we then look at the targets from Paris targets for 2050, where we have a mobility, a completely carbon-free mobility, and then we calculate back, then we know that the last conventional cars could be sold around 2040, because after 10 years they are more or less out of the market. Coming to this again, and if you say, okay, one platform is normally good for 2 generations, then we calculate it back another 16 years, then we come into the area of 2023, 24. This means we are now have to really bring to the market the last conventional cars into the European, in the world and the markets. And in parallel, we are ramping up the production and the development for pure electrical cars. And just allow me a little bit to show off a little bit of Volkswagen, what we recently presented at the Frankfurt Motor Show, the new Volkswagen ID.3, which is on sale now, and the delivery will start in a few weeks or months. I don't know the exact date. ID means for us that this is the third, ID3, because it's the third fundamental generation within the Volkswagen history. In 1938, it was the Volkswagen Beetle. Then in 1974, it was the Golf. And now in 2019, it's the first pure electrical platform. It's the ID. And this means for the Volkswagen Group just that this is not just something I tell you or a promise or something. This is happening now. Right now, within the next 5 years, Volkswagen Group will invest 30 billion euros only investments into pure electrical cars. And within the next 10 years, we will bring 70 different models within the Volkswagen Group to the market. So 69 to follow to the one we have just presented. And we are just ramping up the production volume for electrical car to provide within the next 10 years 22 million cars to the market. So this is happening. This is not something we are dreaming of or that we are calculating. This is now happening. And then coming to the next step, and this is maybe in this context more important, what is the technology we have to work on? And this is sure the core, the heart of the electrical car is the battery. And the battery performance, to reach the acceptance of our customers, the batteries has to become better. They have to be more, let's say, have to have a better aging behavior. This is what we are striving for. We want to have a better energy balance, so we want to have a higher capacities for the battery. We want to have fast charging, extremely important for our customers.
Very important.
They are very much afraid about having big breaks when traveling. And then finally, sure, the lifetime calculations itself. The problem with the battery technology is this is all interacting with each other. So if you improve one ability in your car or one property of your battery, another property will probably decrease in its performance. And so this makes the whole thing so fundamental in research work. And this is also something where we come to Horizon Europe, where I think that also international collaboration and European collaboration can be very, very helpful to achieve these goals for the customers at the end of the day.
Certainly it is. So you are giving us hope. And I would like to, we'll come back to these issues. And I would like Julia, who is Julia, have we asked our audience about what are the research? Yes. No. We have a very competitive market. We have newcomers to this market. So you have been asked, what should be the differentiating features of our batteries so that we can use them and sell them? What did the audience reply through Slido? Julia. Ah,
yes,
yeah, you know, it's a change of perspective.
So
okay, very good.
Yeah, you can hear me. Yes, so we have asked you to vote on Slido on how can Europeans compete best on the global scale. We have provided you with several options, and unless you change the statistics while I'm reading, for the moment you believe that the way to differentiate from our competitors is to... It's changing. It's through enhanced environmental performance and maximizing recycling and reuse. So focusing on this end of the value chain. However, the second place is through technology leapfrogging, so directly going to the next generations of batteries. And you think that the train is a bit lost, so we shouldn't concentrate now on advanced innovative processes. And we also shouldn't only capitalize on IP. So so that's not clear on this. Why not? So on one hand, you say that we should push the production in Europe, but on the other hand, you say now that we should do both environmental performance and technology leapfrogging.
Very good. For me, this was not a surprise, but let us see what the panel thinks. Who wants to start about how do you see these results, or what's your views in replying to these questions? Who wants to start? Christine.
I can start. I'm not surprised either, because I think there is an urgency to get on track and start production in Europe at the same time as we in parallel need to make new ideas and bringing a sort of competitive edge to the European production companies, because we have a fight with really skilled production companies from other countries outside Europe.
Very good.
I can continue.
Philippe.
I think that we need to differentiate Europe. Europe has really very strong values regarding respect for people, respect for environment, and I fully push to really to build on these values. That really by developing the circular approach that is needed really to reach a sustainable value chain, that really Europe is probably the best position in the world really to achieve these objectives.
Patrick, am I right in what I'm going to guess? We're going to say.
I don't know what you're going to guess.
You just told us.
No, the first item, yes, it's a key item, and I would put it right at the top or very close to the top. Now, I tend to totally disagree with point number 2. It's
Technology
not,
leapfrogging.
yes, it's not either we do the same as everybody else today or we do much better than everybody else tomorrow. It's not, this is the implied choice here. If we wait until we can do much better than the others tomorrow, well, let me tell you, the field is going to be totally occupied by the competition, and it's going to be much harder to move them out because all the relationships will have been established with the OEMs and all the relationships. It is much more difficult to break existing relationships than to establish new ones from scratch. So what is it that a battery manufacturer has to do? We believe it's to be able to work with this ecosystem that we have. We have world champions in Europe in many items, in some raw materials, active raw materials, separators, components, IT, BMSs. So we have world champions who can make those things very well, and they actually sell to Asia, to competitors in Asia very strongly. We have to capitalize on these people, and we have to be able to make tomorrow. When I say tomorrow, it's not in 10 years' time. It's not the next generation. It's really tomorrow in the very short term, in the industrial sense of short term, batteries that are a bit ahead, as much as possible, but a bit ahead of what's in the market. So we have to push to gain an advantage, maybe not that big, but good for 1 year, good for 2 years, maybe only good for 6 months in some areas. But if we doing the same thing as the others is not going to be much of a differentiating factor, of course. And waiting to be able to do much better than the others is just never going to happen. Or if it happens, the field will be full. So it's going to be it's a losing proposition. So So I cannot at all support point number 2, and I think I like because I see the numbers going down as I speak, so I'm obviously convincing people.
So you don't like
Well, it's
leapfrogging, but you agree with the environmental performance.
Yes, and then, and I very much support item number 3. Very much support item number 3. It's, everyone is sort of reading it, through concentrating on advanced and innovative production processes. Yes, we are not the cheapest people when we work, but we're the smartest for sure. And that's for sure, we know that. We can also get some help from advanced manufacturing techniques, but also advanced big data systems that really track everything, and we can actually make the use of all this data to go one step further at understanding what's going on in our plants and what little changes can actually increase, decrease scrap rates or increase performance, and really using these techniques to reduce cost and bring elements of differentiation vis-a-vis competition that are not so advanced on those things. So clearly for us in Europe, advanced manufacturing production processes are key. I think so.
Okay, so we have to be better than the others, not necessarily.
Yeah, and I love number 4 being a 2%. Yes, of course, we agree with that one.
Yeah, very good. Olivier.
Yes, if we first look at the question again, how can Europe compete best on a global scale?
Yeah.
And we then look for the research and for the development necessary for new battery generations. Then we have roughly 2 aspects in the battery. One is the battery production and the battery design, and the other one is the making the chemicals and finding the right chemical compositions for the base materials for the material. And very much of the potential you have in a battery is coming from the right chemistry that you develop. And if you now look how we are organized in Europe, we are very much focusing on how to make the best battery and how to make the most efficient battery. And I think the question number 3, or the answer number 3, very good describes this dilemma that we already, in asking the question, we give the answer. We have to focus on the production process, but we have also to focus on the processes we need to create the right chemicals, to investigate, to develop, and to produce them in the large scale. And if you then compare us, for example, with the startup culture in the United States, then we see that there are a number of startups are focusing on the development of new chemicals, and they are generating the IP for the generating. And if they have the IP, it will be very, very difficult for us, even if you have the nicest battery production process, it will be very, very difficult to come into the right competition, because you simply don't own the IP on the chemicals. And this is why I can't give. Very difficult for me to choose one of these answers, because one answer is simply missing. And this is that we have to focus also on the chemistry and on the basic development to compete against the startup. They have enormous amounts of money, and the startup culture is not existing in Europe. This is where we come again to Horizon Europe and the European collaborations. We can maybe compete by finding other ways to fund research and collaboration. So it's not a so what we need normally is the competition between the countries, between the companies and so on, but it's also the collaboration. So we have to go on both ways.
Exactly. So probably to different extents, we need a mixture of all these different parameters. Julia, Slido, question 3. So we have talked about the automotive sector until now, but there are airplanes. I am reminded when entering this room that airplanes need to fly, and we have to have batteries that allow them to fly. Not tomorrow, but soon. The sooner the better. We have waterborne. We have the railway sector, and we have, of course, as we were saying, the stationary applications. So the question which was put to you all was, which applications shall we focus on with European battery research and innovation? And you were asked to choose 5 of those. Which were the replies, Julia? Help us.
Yes, so this question shows us a very interesting trend. You were given more than 10 options to choose from, and you were given correctly 5. But most of you have chosen only 4 out of all the 10 options, which is basically being automotive, large stationary applications, which is, I find it's interesting for batteries to be applied for large stationary applications, together with small stationary applications, and aviation. Just to let you know about remind you about the other options, which were yellow machines, portable tools, space, robotics, rail, or highly specialized medical. These options were not selected in our pool.
Very good. And not waterborne, and it was in the list. Okay. So we have to do batteries for these sectors or for others you would think of. What do we have? How do we have to organize our research efforts precisely to get the results of research to be applied to these sectors or to other sectors? How do we make sure that there is technology transfer and the knowledge goes into the productive system? Who wants to start?
Maybe I can say a word on this one.
First.
I mean, clearly, the sheer size of the automotive industry and the amount of resources that can be pulled in all the different stages, from advanced research all the way to product development and integration, are just so huge relative to any other industrial sector, whether you take even stationary applications or space or aviation. The factor is 20, 30, 50 times bigger. So this is actually already pushing very, very strong, the lithium-ion technology today, and it's through all this advanced generations that will be created that the other sectors will benefit from. It's going to leapfrog a lot of efforts. It's going to actually disqualify some technologies which might have been better suited for a specific subsegment, but which will never have the resources necessary to bring it to where it should be. And with this push from the car industry, it's going to sort of branch out in all sorts of directions. So,
Okay.
so that's a kind of a high-level statement. Now, coming to this series
Choices,
of choices, yes, I must say I'm rather surprised with the position of aviation, although this is a market that we hold quite dear to our heart. We supply most Airbuses and Boeings with the safety batteries. Today they're safety batteries, they're not propelling the aircraft, of course. But this market, we believe, is way smaller, for instance, as the rail market. The rail market, which is going to go partially into electric traction batteries for the rail market, is going to be significantly bigger than the aviation market for a long, long time. Now, in 30 years, might be a different story, but the next 20 years, it's way, way, way bigger. And also, I'm a bit surprised that we're not seeing here non-personal car or light commercial vehicle mobility, buses, forklift trucks, mining equipment. I mean, all these, big trucks, all these non-light vehicle mobility.
I suppose perhaps they were part of the automotive in general, the big, probably. Not the railway, that's for sure.
Yeah, not the railway,
Okay.
for sure. Yeah.
Thank you. Christina, how do you see the technology transfer mechanisms from the research centers, universities go to?
No, I think this with that the automotive sector suddenly have become very interested in not only seeing the battery as a black box, but opening it and looking at the chemistry inside, has put a lot of scientists becoming interested in this field. And so lots of things have been revolving around it, and we have very good material scientists in Europe. And that you can see that it spins off in different kinds of battery chemistries for different applications. So just by purely having this concentration, it feeds other things. And what I know, because I have been working for a long time in a long-term research initiative in Sweden called the Swedish Electromobility Center, where researchers really work together with the people from Volvo Cars, AB Volvo, Scania, sitting at the same table discussing not their core business, but what they need to understand. And that kind of really sitting together in a long term and build trust, and then you start to actually do something that gives you this transfer possibility. So what I see in Europe with this new instrument, European Battery Alliance, Battery 2030 plus the long-term Batteries Europe, is actually a chance to reduce and take away a lot of these borders we see between science and industry. Because I know we can work together if we really sit down, but we have to do it in the long term. I'm looking at Volkswagen to see how you react to this. You're welcome to the table in Swedish.
I was wondering, Philippe, in terms of the materials, precisely, I understand that a huge majority of the stationary batteries will come from second life. So
yeah, that's the point I wanted to highlight, that the second life from the batteries coming from the automotive sector will probably represent more than 80% of the stationary applications in the future. So that means that, well, probably there is room for some specific technologies like redox flow for stationary applications, for really big size stationary applications, but this will never become the most part, well, never say never, but not in the foreseeable future. The main application technology for stationary, and even for what I would like to maybe to stress also on for mobility. I think that, well, there are a lot of different chemistries which are currently under research, but I think we have to be conscious that lithium-ion technology will remain the main technology for more than 1 decade, and hopefully with a solid state really bringing some significant change in, especially on safety aspects, and that this one will really be commercialized in a reasonable future. But there is still a lot of things to do just on lithium-ion technology.
Very good.
Yeah.
Would you like to start? Of course.
Maybe
please.
just mentioning something, sure, because the question again is which applications shall we focus on? I don't want to make all the time now advertising for the automotive industry, but the automotive industry has the best use case, I think, for modern batteries, and it's creating the largest volume. And sure, it's a great industry, a big industry, so it's also able to provide in an amount the capacities necessary for the development we want to achieve. So I like very much this this outcome. However, I think it's really worth to think about other applications. One thing is sure, the small stationary batteries. This is what we're thinking about. This is what you're mentioning, the second life. Other things, I personally like my portable Bosch tool, which is absolutely great and nearly never empty. Maybe I'm too lazy in work, but takes a lot of time to use the energy. And I think it's interesting. Sometimes you don't want to bring all automotive manufacturers together in one shared project or in one big collaborations, because sure, they also want to compete. But it's interesting to collaborate and to share what you know with other participants in the markets, with other users. And that could be a tool maker, this could be medicine, an aerospace company or railway company. That makes it very comfortable for automotive companies to say, okay, this is a
Exactly.
this
We never reach
consortium
anyhow
we can work with.
Exactly. We never reach anyhow
So
the
it gives us a
stage
lot
of the
of
product
chances
in the market.
and sometimes
anyhow.
interesting input.
But the automotive sector has helped in what Christina was saying, in opening the battery to the discussion. This sector, for obvious reasons, has been the one has contributed a lot. Now, as I was saying at the beginning, in this session, we are aiming at shaping a bit, helping colleagues to shape a bit the future partnership. And I would like to ask you, which are in your views, when you know that we have made a proposal to make a battery partnership between public and private. In your views, which are the key requirements of that partnership? What is the possible scope, and what are the impacts you expect? What can we expect from such a partnership in 5 to 10 years? So what's the key feature of the instrument? What would be the scope? And what can we expect? I know that we could stay there for hours on that, but if we could just have the 2 or 3 things that you would absolutely want colleagues to listen to. Who would like to start?
I can start this, maybe on this one.
Philip.
I think that what is important is to go for a very holistic, coordinated approach for the whole value chain. And by the whole value chain, I mean starting from really raw materials up to recycling, including all the different applications and the different steps on the manufacture of the chemicals, advanced active chemicals, the manufacture of the cells and the integration of the cells into the battery packs, and really the integration of the battery in the systems where they will be used. So really having a very holistic approach, because this is really something that will be a very important point to be sure that we address all the aspects of this complex issue. As I mentioned earlier, we are in front of a really dramatic change in the electrification of transport, and also the electrification of the power sector. And this change will require really a very strong coordination between all the actors.
But by doing so, and I personally agree with you, what we will get in 5 to 10 years? If we have to say to everyone, yes, put money, what do I get in 5 to 10 years?
Hopefully, we will get solutions which will be more sustainable, really including the recycling, which is really needed from a strategic point of view, also for Europe to get a little bit of more independence from some critical resources, which, as it was mentioned, are coming from other parts of the world. So we need to be more sustainable and to really also to address the footprint, environmental footprint of the production value chain in Europe.
Thank you.
I would be a little blunter. I would say that what we need to get within 15 years is the result of all this effort should be that we reach a certain percentage of the European battery industry relative to the world battery industry. So it's a
very good.
It's a size.
The certain percentage is exactly it does.
Profit
a certain percentage. Okay. Now we are not going to calculate that here, but let us bear that in mind, because this is one of the important things that we'll have to make sure that we have somewhere in the partnership. Christina, whoever.
I think from the research point of view, in the Battery 2030 Plus, we are trying actually to address what challenges do we see to give Volkswagen the batteries with a better performance, with a better lifetime, with a better safety and all that. What kind of research do we need to focus on? So I also support here Philippe's idea about the holistic picture, because if you have that, you can actually feed in the ideas also on what do we really, really have to address and work on to really give SAF the opportunity to take a large part of the world market of the production. So I think this ecosystem is so important. Long-term research should be disruptive and maybe a little crazy and can fail, but it can actually be in a realistic framework with the right kind of dialogue. And I hope the partnership can give that.
Indeed. We need that. Olivier.
I mean,
If
what will
Volkswagen is
happen in the
going next
to
put millions and millions on
5
this
to 10
partnership.
years is always difficult to say because it's in the future. But I think in 5 years we will have a lot of much more understanding about what our customers really expect from electrical cars. Actually, we do not have very much feedback from the market because those who own a car like a Tesla, they are mainly enthusiasts. But now if the normally family father has to deal with this car every day, then we have to learn much more. Is it really the range he's interested in? Is it really the fast charging he's interested in? We get the market back from the market. Are we very, very, very good in safety or worse? How much have we to invest in these questions? What is about the sustainability? In 6, 7, 8 years, we start to recycle batteries. How good does this work? So more and more questions will come out, and this will allow us to ask into the landscape of the universities and the research agency much more detailed questions than we do today. In the first step, we simply have to improve our batteries and to generate IP for Europe. And I think Volkswagen, one of the contributions Volkswagen is doing, we are building battery factories here at Volkswagen in Salzgitter in Germany. And we have investment with a Swedish company now, and not an investment, a joint venture. And so Volkswagen has the intention to create workplaces here in Europe, and to also to have the competence and the production here in Europe. I think that's something not too bad, and sure this will also dominate the way we are doing the research here.
This is something indeed that we have not said that today because it's obvious for all of us, but we have to remind ourselves that what we want is to produce these batteries in Europe, and we have to make sure that this happens. I like your reference to the enthusiasts. I'll give you the floor in a second. It's true. Yesterday we were talking about a little bit more about the behavior and the attitudes, more from the mobility point of view, but this is not decoupled from the battery. So let us not forget that beyond the enthusiasts, we need others to use the electric cars. Sorry.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to my colleague here that also something that we're seeing in all the initiatives that are being brought forward, but maybe not as much as we should, are area. I mean, topics around design to cost. How to design new things, but design to cost. How to design processes for efficiency and minimum scrap ratios. And all those components of competitiveness. So I would like to see a little more focus on helping, on getting the research and development ecosystem, helping industry coming with additional ideas on how to make things optimize, yes, and we can get a lot of support from all sorts of sources here.
So I think colleagues have already a lot of food for thought for this partnership. Thank you, it was very clear. Now, back to Julia. We were asking the audience via Slido about the research gaps. And this is what we got out of you.
Yes, so again, recycling is on top of our list. Whether there are many representatives of this industry or we really believe that this is yet to be developed. Then the second place is given to active materials. And not far from there, we should focus on research on advanced cell materials and raw materials. And we discovered, of course, that all your other options can be scrolled down. And on the bottom of our list is the second use. That's interesting enough, how it correlates with the top place on recycling. And audience seems not to believe so much in second use, or there is no research needed to be done on that. That could be a question. And on the top from the top three from the bottom is on BMS and cell components. But I remind you again, these are the most research efforts needed according to our audience's recycling, active materials, and advanced cell manufacturing.
Very good.
The less urgent problem.
What do you think, members of the panel? It makes you laugh, Olivier.
Spontaneously, I recently learned that especially people in Europe are very critical regarding new technologies, and it's very interesting that now, this year, next year, we need efficient manufacturing processes, we need safe batteries, we need good materials. The recycling question is coming up in 8 to 10 years in a significant way. Actually, we don't have. But people want batteries, but the main concern they have is, how do I do the recycling? This is very, very interesting. I think from today's point of view, recycling is not easy, is a problem from today's point of view, but we have a number of years to do basic research work on it, and we should do, and also at Volkswagen we are ready to be included in these considerations. The good news is that all the metals that you have in a battery have a relatively high value, and history shows if you want to recycle something that has a good value, just from itself, processes are developed because people want to have it.
Yeah, sure.
Best example is a normal catalytic converter. There's some platinum in it, so nobody had to care about it. What is the recycling process? People come themselves and say, I want to have it.
Yeah. Probably in the recycling issue, which it comes at the top, it's also we have learned with the plastics. I know that the battery is not the same thing as the plastics, but it's something that has been already in our minds. I mean, is in our minds. The recycling or recyclable by design, that's something which is and I'm personally very happy that this is the case.
I think that's something that needs to be really integrated into the research for the future generations. But I'm very, very happy to see that active materials and advanced cell manufacturing are also in the top three, because I think that's really where we can really make the difference. Europe has really a very strong history and strong and big players in the field of active materials. We have also a very strong industry in the manufacturing aspect. We have strong players in digital and automation. And so for sure, we still need to improve the quality of the process for making the cells. We need to make them more reliable. We need to still improve the active materials for really getting this IP that will really allow us to move forward and to get the better competitivity over our competitors, Asian competitors. But these are really the two key fields where we have to focus. I think it's important to keep in mind that active materials represent today more than 50% of the cost in the cost structure of the cell, and that with the global trends which are anticipated regarding automation, industry 4.0 and this all these coming technologies, the advanced materials could represent more than 3/4 of the cost of the battery cells in the future. Exactly. So that's really important to address these topics.
I think, can I give the floor to Christina? Because she is leading the project on long-term research needs.
Yes, and active materials is actually one of the core things where we really can benefit from the built-up research infrastructures we have in Europe. I mean, we have We have European Modeling Council. We have the European HPC, high performance computing coming up. We have the synchrotrons. We have the neutron facilities. And we are really in the Battery 2030 Plus trying to enthusiast the synchrotrons and neutron facilities in Europe to work with us to really make new understanding, to put these active materials into battery cells and understand how they behave in a real system. And there's so much to do there, where I really think science can do something for industry in really understand these new materials. And I'm really enthusiastic that you think that active materials is one of the important things here.
Just a quick little add-on to, well, I don't know if it's an add-on to topic number 2 and number 3, but in batteries, it's not only active materials, which are very important, but there are also other components, and some people are able to make some of those other components in a much smarter way than others. So there is key differentiation in the other components. It's surprising what people come up with. There is also a lot of
for example, for non-specialists like myself.
The way the BMS are designed, how you can combine power and signal on the same board in smart ways. That's just an idea. How you make the container of the cells. You have different ways to make them. So there's still a lot of creativity that can be injected in those other components that are a bit ancillary, but still important.
Indeed. Thank you. Creativity in the batteries. That was. Thank you so much. And I think we're gently getting to the last question. If you go quickly, we ask the floor for a question. But I would like you to tell us something that you have liked to tell us and you didn't tell us, in particular for the future partnership. Something that you said, I have to say that. The most important thing, or repetition, because they will. What's the main expectation about this partnership? What you want? Why do you want it?
I want it to ensure that we can have long-term disruptive research in parallel to industrialization, and that. But my worry is that you won't prioritize it because your short-term needs are so sort of urgent. But try to, in the partnership, also think long-term. What will the society be 25 years from now?
Very good. Thank you.
Maybe one point. I heard that there are still some open questions today about combining the partnership on batteries with other partnerships in the field of mobility. And for me, it would be a big mistake, because we are not talking about the same technologies. We are, of course, dealing with the same challenges about climate change and better mobility and safer mobility. Thinking of 2.0, for example, for the next partnership following
the green vehicle,
EVIA. But I think that if we put too many things together, which are, of course, they have to be coordinated, they have to speak one to the other, but putting everything under just one big instrument would really reduce the impact and the power of the partnership. So I would really push for a dedicated partnership for batteries.
Very clear.
And also because it's not, of course, it's mainly about mobility applications, but it's not just about mobility applications, and we have also to consider the other applications.
Thank you very much. Patrick.
I fully support Philippe. So you got my voice on this one. I wanted to go back to this recycling thing that surprised me a little bit. Something is going to happen in recycling. You've said a word or two on this, but I'd like to go in that direction a little deeper. You know, the big technology today for industrial batteries are lead-acid batteries. Rather simple products, 60% lead, sulfuric acid, some plastic, very easy to recycle, very cheap to recycle, Not that much value in the metals, but sufficient to pay for the recycling costs. When you move to these lithium-ion batteries, which are a lot more complex, many more different materials, they're all combined in very smart ways. The recycling process is more expensive, much more expensive, and well, there's also quite a lot of value in the materials, but the process is significantly more expensive than it is for the lead battery recycling. And today, the process is often a little more expensive than the materials that are in the batteries. That's the situation today. As the car industry places on the market, as customers buy more and more electrical vehicles, eventually over time the flow of used batteries after maybe second life for some of them will increase significantly, and you're going to see the recyclers find also very smart solutions on how to decrease the costs and bring the recycling costs probably way below the cost of the materials of the battery, and then don't ever leave a battery on the roadside because it's going to be gone in 5 minutes. So, and you're seeing very large companies now moving into the recycling industry, either large recyclers that are present in other segments of the waste industry, or metallurgical companies that wants to be part of that closed loop approach. And you're going to see also a massive amount of resources going into recycling. I must say, we're good at designing to some extent for recycling, but the recycling is not our forte. It's another industry.
No, it's another
you have to
industry.
trust that other industry. They have huge resources also, and they will come up with very smart, efficient, fast, and eventually cheap ways to recycle, in a positive sense of the word. So you have to trust the recycling industry here.
Fully agree. This is different market, different business case. So thank you, Olivier.
So, what I want to say, I would be happy if we really engage in Europe for battery development in a way that Europe is becoming leading in battery research and in battery design and in battery manufacturing. This should be the goal, and we are ready to get engaged in all kinds of partnership, of European partnerships. Sure, we are a private company at the end of the day, so we are mainly interested also in getting involved into low TRL level, technical readiness level activities in pre-development, pre-competitive activities, but we would be happy to support Europe and Horizon 100 with projects and with our personal engagement. And this is not the statement of Volkswagen also, but also my personal one.
Okay, thank you very much. We are about to finish. I will take one question from the floor, but I have my boss Julia there. Julia, what are you telling me?
Yes, so we have received 3 questions through Slido.
So we'll do the Slidos because they were good. Thank you.
So just a remark again about recycling from someone from the audience, that this was also a way how we can solve the raw materials availability in Europe. So the recycling could be a question for that, for the materials which we don't have access in Europe. Also, we had a question about when we will have a cobalt-free battery. And how long will lithium be used in the future? Well, that's a little bit rhetoric question, I think. And the question which the panel could take probably, how does battery evolutions compare with fuel cells and hydrogen? We know that a couple of decades ago, there was a big fuss about this technology indeed. What are the comments of the panelists? Why batteries, and why should we believe in electromobility indeed?
1 second each only, because we are not going to reply to those. Unfortunately, we have to liberate the room, and you've been fantastic until now, and I'm sure you will be. 1 second each.
You want to talk just quickly about cobalt? We are doing a lot of material simulation, basic material simulation, and to be fair, cobalt is a really cool element for batteries, and it probably will be take very, very, very long time until you really have a competitive cobalt-free battery. The good news is there are also more cobalt in the world than you think, and that is actually mined, so there are also chances for new mines.
Okay, so some hope. Thank you.
I also had one word about cobalt. I'm not so sure the right way to go forward is to get rid of cobalt. Yeah. I mean, if I were a citizen of Congo, I would hate that because it's one of the assets of my country. You know, whether I'm the president or just a laborer in the country, So it's not getting rid of cobalt, it's getting rid of abuse in the cobalt industry. Cobalt in itself has no negative, it's only positive. So why get rid of cobalt?
This is the issue is
Cobalt is
broader
not
than the
evil.
question of the cobalt, indeed, and the solutions need to be broader. Point taken.
Yes, on this one, I would just want to insist on the fact that companies are already working on responsible sourcing. There are some general guidelines from OECD or from the United Nations that really need to be implemented, and companies are really willing to implement them for cobalt also. Regarding the one on the competition between batteries and fuel cells, well, I think that fuel cells today still have a gap dealing with the cost.
That will bring us very long, very far the discussion now.
Probably we don't have to see them as competing technologies, but complementary technologies.
Great, we agree on that. Christina, the last
Batteries
word.
have much higher efficiency than fuel cells, but I agree, it's batteries and fuel cells.
Exactly. So I hope you all agree that it has been a fantastic panel, a lot of pressure, but plenty of contents. Thank you so much. A big applause to them, and thank you to Julia and Stefan. Thank you so much. It was great.
Dear colleagues, we were asked by organizers, if you're not planning to attend any other session, you're kindly requested to go downstairs so that new people can go upstairs for the other sessions. Thank you.